Hey, in this episode of Your Property Podcast, I'm talking to property investor Arden Hart about how he became a full-time property investor and made the switch from touring professional musician. So in this episode, he talks really candidly about overcoming the challenges of switching to full-time property investing, overcoming the challenges of running out of money, which is really easy to do when you're starting out in property, how he chose his particular strategy, and he dives deep into the deals that he did. So if you're looking to find out about how ordinary people achieve extraordinary things in property investing, then this is an episode you can't afford to miss. Also, a quick reminder that if you want to grab the YPN toolkit to get started in property investing, you can head over onto yourpropertynetwork.co.uk and download our full property investor Get Started Toolkit. Hey, this is Lyons from Your Property Network, and today we're talking about starting out and then scaling up your property business. And I'm really pleased to be joined by Arden Hart today. Arden is a property investor with a few years under his belt now, but still considers himself towards the beginning of his journey. But we're going to be talking about, today we're going to be talking through his journey on how and why he got started in property, choosing a strategy, which is probably one of the most confusing things that anybody can do when they start in property, and then scaling up and where the property business is now and where it's going to be and his aims for it. So we're here to learn. I'm here to learn from Arden. So Arden, thanks for joining me on the call.
Hello there. It's lovely to be here. This is outrageous. I'm here.
Yeah, it's funny, but before we were recording just now, Arden said he felt this imposter syndrome and wasn't sure that he deserved to be here and all these kind of things, and I'm here to say that, you know, he's doing great things in property, and if you're near at the beginning of your journey now, we hope this is going to serve as inspiration to get you over the line, getting that first deal or those next few deals, and helping with our help today, hopefully talking through how you can kind of refine what you're doing and get a clearer goal path for you know what you want to do going forward in property, because we are true believers that ordinary people achieve extraordinary things in property, and I have interviewed probably around about 2,000 people who are ordinary people who've done great things. So there we go. So Arden, let's start with life pre-property for you, because we're not born, very few of us are born property investors. Can you tell us a little about what you were doing before this property thing?
Yeah, so before I got into all this, I was a full-time professional musician. I was extremely lucky. I played with a lot of pop groups. I toured the world with a lot of big names.
Hey, name drop for us. We want to know.
Well, I started in Take That in the 90s as their keyboard player. Went on to play with the Spice Girls. I was in Massive Attack for like 9 years. Played on a whole load of records as well in the 90s and the noughties, loads of boy bands. And so, yeah, musically, I was extremely lucky. I grew up in London, which is kind of the center of the universe when it comes to the music business. And I used to work with a lot of record producers, film writers, and had my own studio. Used to do production writing with lots of kind of artists and daytime TV shows, films, everything. And so everything was pretty cool, and I was going along life, not really, you know, I messed about a bit in property. I kind of made all the mistakes back in the day, because like, for example, they talk about commercial to residential conversions. That was the first thing that I actually did without even knowing what I was doing. I bought like a bottom floor of an office building in order to convert it into a flat. It had no address. I had to literally set up the address and everything as a residential. Made every single mistake that you could make. Bought the floor above, knocked it through, put a spiral staircase in. It had like I put a conservatory over the top that just leaked every time it rained. It was like standing in a shower. Um, but I look back fondly on those days because even though I didn't really know what I was doing, I still kind of messed about a bit with property, learnt a few lessons, sold everything, and actually ended up buying a normal house, which was a lot more comfortable to live in than that place. And then basically, when COVID hit, my income totally disappeared. The music disappeared. So my back was against the wall, and I had to do something. And so I basically just got into hours and hours of education on the internet, webinars, free stuff, anything to kind of learn more about property and how to get started to replace my income. And I had to accelerate that pretty fast because the bills kept coming, and
Those keep coming. Yeah.
yeah, and so I had to do something. So I kind of look back at those days now as a blessing. Everyone says, "Oh, COVID, it's such a terrible time," but I look at it now that if it hadn't have happened, then I wouldn't have what I've got now. And um, so, I basically looked at rinsing money out of everywhere I could find to start my property portfolio. So obviously, I started off not really aiming very well. I thought, okay, I've got to buy some properties somehow to start making some money. So I remortgaged my house, took 90 grand out and bought 4 properties up in the northeast. Just, I don't know, I didn't really look that much into it. I didn't even go and view them. I literally just did the numbers and the yield and thought, okay, if I put this in, I'll get that out. And I remember the very first property I was looking at was on Rightmove, and that taught me to not buy properties on Rightmove ever again, because it's like going in the jungle, and the competition was immense. The people that were fighting over this property, and I don't know how I got it in the end. It was a 3-bed terraced house in Middlesbrough, TS1. I bought it for 59 grand, and actually now I've turned it into a mini HMO, and I'm kind of doing student lets for international students in it now for Middlesbrough University, and that's going quite well. But when I started out, it had tenants in there. It was a bit of a state. I didn't really know about the university thing. But yeah, in the end, actually, that's done pretty well, and gone up quite well, and that the yield's really good now. The other 3 that I bought after that Rightmove experience of buying that property, I just thought, you know what, the only way I can scale up quickly is by coming off Rightmove and starting to use my network. So I was asking my broker, anybody I knew, do you know anybody that's selling like parts of portfolios? So instead of buying single properties, I could buy batches of like 3 or whatever's around, really, just to kind of create a bit more of an income and scale up much quicker. So my broker at the time, he goes, "Oh yeah, I know somebody up in the northeast as well, and he's an estate agent, and he knows people that, portfolio landlords and stuff that are getting rid of parts of their stock." So he referred me to somebody. I just rang up this guy and look, got anything going? I want to buy batches of houses. Oh yeah. There's, funny you mention it. Somebody I know that's selling 3 in one go. Are you interested? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Because these are all tenanted. I wasn't doing anything flash. I wasn't doing any refurbs. It was just a matter of buying some houses to get some income going. As I say, I was starting out, so I wasn't really doing buy, refurbish, refinance or anything like that.
So at this point, you've got the kind of money that you're starting out with, like £90,000, and it's really easy to spend that really quickly, isn't it? And for that money to get sort of tied up into deals or stuck in deals or whatever. And it sounds like, as you say, no plan to kind of refurb and then refinance out at the end. So at what point does that change? Is it when you literally kind of run out of funds, or?
Yeah, well, that obviously happened fairly quick, and I spent that 90 grand in a flash. Um, but I had four properties, and I thought, okay, um, I'm doing okay, not really thinking about the future. But then it was after that I started to think, okay, I can't really carry on doing this because I can't keep finding money everywhere. Um, so after, yeah, so I uh, basically at that time I had a house that I bought in London, that I bought to live in 2006, and that house is always untouchable, and I was always that thinking, you know, it's that common saying, my house is my pension. You know, it's all going to be all right. I'm just going to leave that alone, and then when it comes to the time, I can use that house. But it wasn't until I started learning about numbers and property and pensions and all of that, I suddenly realized that that's probably the worst pension I could have. And I'd probably only last about 8 years if I use the money, if I sold that house and use that money to, you know, live basically. So I started doing buy, refurbish, refinance, took a bit of money out of that house, and then I was a bit more measured in the properties I bought after that. So I used the same system, used my network, asked around, found somebody else who was also selling another batch of three properties. So I bought those. They were a bit knackered, so I used some of that money out of that house, bought those houses, added some value, did a bit better on it, got some money out of it, and then kept going a bit more. So slowly, I was starting to learn about how to utilize that kind of strategy. So that did pretty well, and then I moved on to basically look at other areas. So I also in the northeast of England, but kind of out of the Stockton Middlesbrough area, found another property, which is the one that I sent in my example. I was a bit brave. I did an auction purchase. It was totally knackered. Bought it for like 65k, spent a bit of money on, and then it got a decent valuation. It's not a flash, you know, it's not one of those flash all out money deals or anything like that.
So
But that,
were you, when you're crunching your numbers on these, are you looking for like a, this is the rate of return that I'm, you know, this is the return on capital invested that I'm looking to achieve from this? So what's your kind of benchmark of, this is a deal for me? What does that look like?
yeah, the benchmark really is to be making 15% minimum on any money I've got left in the property. Um, it's not the easiest thing because most vanilla kind of houses would only return kind of 10% on capital employed. Um, but you know, I'm always trying to have the highest yield, which is why I invest in that area of England, just because it seems to just have the best value to rent ratio. Um, so, which is why I kept going. I went to Durham, bought that place, and then managed to take a little bit money left, and I bought another property in Middlesbrough. Did the same thing, buy, refurb, refinance. Bought it really cheap. Converted it into a four-bedroom HMO. So at that point, I found there was a bit of a sweet spot because with four-bedroom, two-bathroom properties, it kind of falls under the regulations for HMOs. So you don't have to have them licensed. You can, as long as you've set it up nicely and you've got all the HMO kind of style fire alarms and fire doors and stuff. Um, you can run it as an HMO under all the regulations, and it saves a lot of money, and you can get a similar kind of HMO yield on those properties. So that one at the moment is like the star of the portfolio. And I'm kind of, yeah, I'm looking to do more of those because
And what does that look like financially? Kind of what does it, what did you pay for it, and then what was it worth, and then what do you rent it for?
I rent it. Well, I rent it for 1,200 a month. I paid 70 grand on it, and I think I spent about 25 grand on the refurb. So it yields really nice, and yeah, those properties for me now are golden. But I'm also thinking I really want to scale up much quicker and look at bigger deals. So I've kind of parked that to one side at the moment, and I'm thinking about sourcing a block of flats or like a really large HMO and having a go at the social housing leases that everyone's really hot on at the moment, probably because everyone's freaking out about the renters' rights bill, trying to skirt around it. So I'm just thinking, with this whole thing, when I started, I promised the wife that I'd get her out of her job through this and retire her literally, and so she's fed up with working. So I thought I've got to hit this goal as quick as I can. Getting all these small places is great and it's working fine, but maybe I can accelerate hitting that promise if I, scale up and look at some bigger deals. So that's where I'm at the moment, and also pulling in some investors and people that want to join me in my quest, basically, and which is which
So
is great.
what's the, we all have a number, don't we, that is sort of financial freedom, and it varies for everybody. Do you have a number in mind where you say, well, when I get this, I'm kind of, I've got all my bills paid, my wife can retire, and be happy. If you've got a number that, ticks that box.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mention that because when you ask people what their number is, everyone always says the same number, but they've never actually sat down and thought about it. So yeah, everyone says, oh yeah, if I had 10 grand a month, that's it, I've got financial freedom, and it just seems to be like a default number for people. But for me, it's, I don't actually need that much to be okay. I think I got it down to about 7,800 to like 8,000 a month. If I hit that, then I think that'll do it really. And obviously that's a starting point because rents are going up every year. I'm going to carry on, scaling up as much as I can. I mean, if I hit that point, I'll probably take my foot off the gas a little bit because I've only been doing this for 4 years, so I've sort of done all right up till now. But at that point, you want to kind of sit back and enjoy the scenery, I suppose. So I probably only try and do one deal a year if I hit that point. Well, I mean, I will hit that point, but from then it's gonna.
Tell us a bit about the portfolio at the moment then. So you've been in this for 4 years. So what does it look like now?
Now I've got 8 buy-to-lets and 2 small HMOs. So they're generating around 4,000 a month at the moment. That's net after everything. So yeah, I'm halfway there, and it's going pretty well. But I'm kind of stuck whether to carry on looking at these 4 beds in the north or looking in different areas. I'm in talks with a couple of housing providers at the moment, and I'm considering changing tack to basically, if I can get a lease on a large building, then my thoughts are I could get a commercial valuation on that lease and be able to buy a much bigger property with that valuation that may cover the actual deposit. So I'm looking at leaving a lot less money in a much bigger deal if I can get it over the line, and that's kind of where I'm at the moment. There's nothing wrong with what I've done. I just think, well, if I carry on doing small properties, then it's just going to take me longer to hit my goal. So I thought the only way I'm going to do it is by being a lot bolder and just seeing if I can crack it, really.
I guess the answer is probably to be looking for both opportunities at the same time. And, typically in my experience, what you really hope will happen is one will come along and you'll just be finishing that deal and then another one will come along. And that is never what happens. They always come along at once, and then you've got to kind of sort the finance for them all at the same time. But how are you finding the sort of talking to private investors and starting those conversations? Because that's quite a shift of kind of mindset and tack, isn't it, to bring other people into a deal with you? How are you finding that?
I'm finding it very interesting because for a long time I was extremely afraid to put on social media that I was doing property or anything like that, because everyone on my social media are basically music people from the past, and I was a bit afraid that I was going to get a bit of a ribbing from a lot of these people if I start doing property posts. But what I found is it was totally opposite to that. And when I started posting, I got a lot of support and a lot of people very interested in what I'm doing. And it seems to strike a chord with a lot of people that they're sitting there knowing they've got to do something, but they haven't really had the courage to actually start doing any of it. But they know that the property thing is a good vehicle for what they're trying to achieve financially. So I've had a lot of DMs of people that want to invest, a lot of people that want me to help them with their property problems. So yeah, along the way, I'm starting to collect people as investors that I never imagined would be there, like old friends and colleagues. And yeah, it's very surprising. Normally you think, oh, if I'm going to get investors, they're going to be people that I don't really know, and I've got to put myself out there, and I've got to, it's going to be a pain. But for me, it's been a lot.
I wonder, sorry to interrupt, I wonder if there's, people who are in the kind of music industry are used to kind of working outside of the kind of traditional 9 to 5 and the, monthly paycheck or whatever, and are I would imagine have to hustle a bit more for money along the way sometimes. So I wonder if that kind of, there's an entrepreneurial spirit there, albeit in a very creative sense, and they may be sort of consciously aware they actually, next month I don't know what will happen to my paycheck, or in 6 months' time or whatever, in a way that doesn't necessarily happen if you're in the kind of corporate life. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah, that's massively true, and which is why a lot of these people, when they get older in life, I always used to have this joke with people that, I'm getting older, I can't do pop gigs anymore, no one wants me on stage because I look like the artist's dad, because a lot of these things, your kind of shelf life as a musician on TV or on stage is kind of cut short by getting older, I think, because now I'm still playing. At the moment I play with Sister Sledge, the disco group. I think the only reason why I'm playing with them is because they're like an old legacy group, and when I'm on stage,
we saw them at a festival at the Pig just outside of Bath, maybe 18 months ago. I don't know if you would have been there at that, or
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's okay on those kind of things because the artist is quite old, so I kind of I'd fit in more really. But doing like the boy band thing or any of the young kind of pop acts, yeah, it doesn't really you're not really on the you're not really on the radar for that. So a lot of these people that have been doing music for years, they look at what I'm doing and they think, oh, okay, he's actually made a choice and done something about life and what the gradual progression from doing music to actually doing something where you could actually have some income without traveling all over the place and working really hard. So I get a lot of support from people who who kind of basically because they see what I've done and it's kind of lit them up in the fact that it's possible to actually change and do something else and still make a success out of it. Even though I'm over 50 now, and I'm kind of starting off in this business, and it kind of makes them see that there is something possible, and you can still
Do you find
do okay.
I don't know how to phrase this question exactly, but I'll try my best. It's like, do you find that kind of moving into property gives you a kind of creative fix, and the entrepreneurial kind of like a drive there and self-motivation that you previously got in that kind of creative element from music, or is it completely different?
Well, it's creative on a totally different level. I mean, I find it really cold because I love playing music, and so I find it very therapeutic when I actually play music, and that's how it's always been for me, kind of regardless of whether I was being a very cold corporate session musician or not. The act of playing music was good for my soul, and I don't really get that from property really. But what I do love is the people and the network, and the property people are very similar to music people. Everyone's very warm and approachable, and I've had some great hangs with property people, and that side of it is great. But the actual business side, I don't know, I find it quite cold in comparison to music, because you're just dealing with numbers and contractors and planners and there's nothing that's actually nurturing your soul. But I suppose if you create a really nice place for somebody to live in, then you're going to get that feel good factor, and I've managed to achieve that a couple of times.
Yeah, there's definitely a kind of a non-financial kind of intrinsic reward from when you do turn something that's old and unloved and dilapidated and knackered into something which you can be proud of and stand in and hope that someone's going to enjoy living in, definitely. But it can be a lonely business at times as well, I think. It sounds like you managed to combat that by meeting other people who are in this space.
Totally, but I'm still afraid sometimes to mention that I'm doing property. It depends what situation you're in. People take it either way, because landlords have got such a bad name, I suppose, that some people would, if I mentioned it in some musical circles, then I'd probably get a lot of hate. It's like, oh no, you must be one of those rogue landlords.
You're one of them. You're one of them. Then. Yeah.
Exactly. I've turned into a suit. That's what we used to call them.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because actually, I always think that it's so far removed from being a suit, and the kind of having to make it yourself. Sometimes with nothing in property is so far removed from like the kind of corporate world that. I think we get painted as like these kind of corporate entities or whatever, and the truth is we're very far from that quite often.
Oh, totally. But I have seen a few property developers that are so cliche, and they're the ones that are giving everyone else a bad name. So I totally see how people can feel that way. But obviously, you and I are totally bucking the trend.
and so let's talk about, you said that music kind of nourishes your soul, and property is rarely a full-time kind of 9 to 5 job sitting there all all day, every day. So having created a bit more time, and also, when you hit that goal, which you're more than halfway to there now, what do you do that outside of property kind of for fulfillment? And what's the end game when you hit that number? For some people I talk to, it's I want to travel, I want to see parts of the world. For very few people it's about the kind of Ferrari and stuff in the driveway. For most people it's more about freedom and time to go walk, if it's me, like walking in the hills or mountain biking or something like that, or a bit of travel. What's the end goal look like for you?
Well, me, I definitely go back to doing music totally for fun. I've got a solo project to record. I still got a studio I love doing stuff in. I just want to have time to sit in my studio, record music. I love playing golf. So the time to play golf for me is golden. I never get time to do that. So if I could play golf like 4 times a week, have a nice little holiday flat, somewhere on a golf course, that'd be amazing. Obviously getting the wife out of her job so she can sort the kids out, so I've got time to go and do all of this. That would be amazing too. But yeah, for me, travel, obviously be great to travel, but I've got 2 boys, 10 and 6, so traveling around is going to be a bit more tricky.
Maybe a bit further down the line than that bit. So
yeah, I'd love to do that, but for me it's just about freedom to do what I want, play golf when I want, do music when I want. The wife can sort the kids out because I've been doing the school runs and everything because she's working full time. So at that point that would be amazing. It is freedom, really, I suppose.
I think that's what everyone who comes into this is working towards, without a doubt. And I don't think that's a selfish thing or a lazy thing in any way. I think that's a smart choice. A friend of mine uses the terminology "life by design." Design the life that you want to live, and then work towards getting that. And I think that's a great way. So let's talk about as we come towards the end of it. Let's talk about some of the things that haven't gone right, so we can share those, or anything that you look at and you think, God, that was a mistake, or I cocked up there, or on reflection. Can you think of any that you think, there's a learning point, there's something, don't do what I did?
Absolutely. When I bought my house, I bought my house to live in North London back in '06. I only ended up living in it for like 2 years. And then I went off, had a girlfriend that lived in Brighton. So I decided to rent out the place to a so-called friend of mine, and who was on DSS. And I thought, what could possibly go wrong? So I rented out this house. She had a small child as well. So everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. She stopped paying the rent. She ended up owing thousands in the rent. Then the whole house got mashed up. She basically destroyed the house. I had to evict her through the courts. Took months. The whole thing cost me thousands. I think in the end, with refurbing the house, it ended up costing me about 40,000. The whole experience, and that was my first. That was my first tenant. So everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. But I suppose because I did it all on my own, I thought, because I kind of knew her. She was basically a friend of my my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend at the time. And I thought, okay, this is going to be fine. She's on DSS. I'll be guaranteed to get the rent. So obviously she spent it all before she could pay me any money, and then didn't look after the house. And then she just went, I don't know, she went totally weird and started mashing up the place as well. And then I had to evict her, got the bailiffs in, it was the full experience.
Nice way to dip your toe in the water. Nice first experience in property.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I do. I mean, I look at it now, thinking, well, even though that happened, I mean, that house, that's still, you know, it's doing great. Even though I spent all that money, I've forgotten about it all. The house has gone up loads. I've had tenants in there for 10 years. They're great. The house is great. I've taken money out of there to invest as well. So it kind of hasn't made any difference, but I remember at the time it was horrible.
Yeah, it sounds it. So if we've got people watching this, reading this, listening to this, and they're interested in kind of connecting with you and finding out a little bit more. I know you're working with a few sort of select kind of joint venture partners now. We might have people who are interested in finding out whether or not it's possible to work with you in that format, or if they just want to learn, what's the best way of them kind of reaching out and making contact?
You can find me on Facebook. Just search me up, Arden Hart, or send me an email at arden@neatstreet.ltd. Neat Street is my company. I mean that's kind of it. Or find me on LinkedIn. I'm also there as Arden Hart. Any of those places really. And I'm very approachable. If anyone sends me a message, it'd be nice to have a chat for sure.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Arden. Thanks so much for sharing today. I hope you don't mind me using the phrase. I used it at the start. Ordinary people achieving extraordinary things in property. I hope you don't mind me saying, using those words. I think you're a real inspiration. People who are starting out now that this is possible. You don't need to be, some amazing whiz kid who's kind of born into this or whatever. This is following a kind of strict pattern. It's not easy. It doesn't happen quickly. We can accelerate things, and it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing at the moment. But we at Your Property Network couldn't do what we do without people like yourself coming on, sharing your experience, the good and the bad, as we just covered some of the bad there as well. So a huge thanks from me, all the team at YPN, and everybody reading this, watching this, listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been great to be on. Thank you.